Hey guys, Jengar here. Welcome to today's tutorial in which we'll be looking at side climbing. Now, over the years, I've had a lot of people ask me, Jengar, you're talking about side climbing. How do you do this? What's important in that sense? And it doesn't work for me. How do you do that? And okay, yeah, man, I have thought about this and I decided to make a video on it. Because for me, it usually works 90 to 95% of the time, basically, to get in a position that is dominating and from which I can use my plane to its utmost potential. Especially these planes that you're looking at. I've especially selected some planes that are not very good in the climb rate department to show you that it's basically always possible, mostly always, to get into a position from which you can actually start using that plane. And that is side climbing, and I'm gonna explain to you guys to the best of my ability now to what I do and all the things that are involved in that sense. So side climbing is a way of climbing to achieve energy superiority in planes that have subpar climb rate. Now you can also use it with planes that have good climb rate or average climb rate. I usually go side climb to some extent in all my matches because I like the tactical setup. It gives me a better overview. It gives me the opportunity. If I climb a little bit to the left or to the right, or more to the left or right, depending on how bad the climb rate of my plane is, I will be reasonably sure that 90% of the enemy planes will be to my left or my right either. And I got to look at those sides then and keep an eye on everybody, but I can, and it's more easy than when I go in through the middle of the map, which you cannot do, of course, in a bad climb rate plane. But if you go in a good climb rate plane, then it is much more easy to do that. Still, you might be surprised. So I always go to the side. It's one of my automated tactical setups. Okay, so pre-contact, you go off the airfield and you go in a certain direction. Usually I go quite a bit left or right from the most outlying enemy bases, either to the left or the right, depending on the map. And what are now the things that come into play in this pre-contact period? Plane knowledge is one, of course. You got to know a little bit of the climb rate of your plane. You got to know in which of the categories it falls. Is it super climber? Is it terabad? Is it just average? And you got to know at which speed your plane climbs the best. So that is also one thing. Climb by speed, not elevation. You got to know which speed your plane climbs most comfortably at, and you got to try to stay in that range as long as you can, and so that you climb as most efficiently. Basically, you don't want to climb by degrees or stuff like that, because that just does not work as efficiently. So know your plane and position it accordingly is very important. Choose a direction depending on your map, depending on the climb rate that you have, and also depending on whether you are solo or in a squad. You gotta choose a direction. Sometimes you will have allies with you in good climbers that can give you top cover, so that actually makes it possible for you to engage targets that are more on an average altitude, and you can leave the high flyers to your top cover team, which is very handy. Can be quite efficient to be in a squad. But of course, many times you fly alone, you're on your own, and you got to do this by yourself. And in that case, if you're flying solo, you cannot depend on your top flyers, especially if you don't know them. If you do know them, you might. And if you're flying solo, you can't at all. So you got to take the time to side climb and wait until you're 95% sure that you're actually the highest plane there. Now you got to manage, of course, as well. You got to manage. You got to maintain the ideal climb speed for your plane and stay in that range. Some planes like to fly and climb at 270, 280. Some like a little bit higher speed at 300, 320. So you gotta make sure that you approximately know what your plane likes and climb in that range. Keep that speed and maintain a little bit of attention to keeping that in the right spot. Now, of course, you can also use a web to increase your engine power. More emergency power is quite important in the climbing stage of the match, because really, if you get to the altitude you need, be the highest plane, and you can from there dominate the match, that is worth half your web time. You know what I mean? It just really use that web as much as you can in that climb section, but you gotta watch the overheating in some planes, so you gotta manage that as well while you climb. Now, then after climbing a little bit, you'll get into the post-contact phase. You will be seeing enemy planes, you will get dots, sometimes spotted by your allies, most of the time first because you are side climbing and you're not going into the fray very fast, so you're usually a little bit to the side, to the back, and usually things get spotted for you and you'll start to get an idea of the battlefield. Now there's a couple of things involved there. Situational awareness, of course, is one. Tactically, you got to focus on the highest enemies and adjust your flight path if necessary. Now we're talking about mainly about the planes who need that side climbing, right? So who don't have a good climb rate. Usually you'll find 4 or 5 planes above you. If they are coming within 9 kilometers, you'll often become visible to them and they can pick you as a target. So what you want to do is you want to keep those enemy high flyers within a range of 10 kilometers or more. So if they're coming towards you, you gotta adjust your direction and you gotta fly somewhere else. Keep climbing, but fly somewhere else so that distance stays above 10 kilometers. 9 kilometers is that's where it flips. That's where you become visible to people with good stats on their pilot and crew. But yeah, so be aware of that. Just fly the other way. Don't stop until you're top. Many people tell me, hey, we're at 5k, that's enough, right? No, it's not enough, man. You gotta observe if it's enough. You gotta observe in the battle at hand to see if 5k is enough. And I can tell you often it's not enough. So just keep flying until you're reasonably sure that you're on top. Don't stop until you're top. Count your enemies. Okay, raise your hand if you count enemies during the climbing phase. No one? Some of you? I hope some of you. The ones of you that count your enemies, then you guys are further along than most. Veterans count their enemies. You count the ground attackers. You can see names coming up as artillery gets hit or if plane gets hit, and you can count planes as you see them. Right here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I already see nine players. So there's 3 left somewhere. And from there you can make better decisions. If you see a bomber spot somewhere, a dot, then you can already say, okay, I've seen 10, there's 2 left, I can make a calculated decision. Don't stop until you're top doesn't always go up. There's a intuitive feeling to it, but you can make it a more calculated feeling when you actually count planes. You will know that, okay, I saw 10 out of 12 planes, I can go in, maybe there's only 2 left, I'll deal with them in some other way, I'll try to save these 2 allies down there who are fighting for enemy planes. You can make that decision. So your basic instinct should be to don't stop until you're top. But in there's a Fingerspitzengefühl, there's intuition. You gotta make decisions at a certain point. You gotta engage in the battle. And if you count enemy planes, you can make better decisions. So count, please, guys, count. And furthermore, things can go wrong. You can make some bad decisions, or you go flying as you learn, right? But with me, after all this experience, after all these years, it goes right 95% of the time, as I said. But subpar engagements do happen. You have 3 enemy 109 stop flyers coming at you, and what do? You just run away, man. I mean, the Red Baron Manfred from Richthofen used to tell his generals how he survived, and when they asked, and he told them, I survive because when there is a disadvantage for me, I remove myself from the battlefield. I retreat or I run away. You know, you don't take a situation in which you can die. Don't take that situation. Turn around, fly away, and you will see them usually peel off. They pick another target, or they're not gaining on you anymore, and they think like, fuck that, I'm going to attack somebody here. Because most players want their kills. They don't think about the superior position. They don't think about domination. They don't think about surviving. They will leave you alone. They usually fly away. And then you can reset and come back into the battlefield and take your advantage and take your top spot and start to dominate. Please be one of those guys. Don't just randomly fly in. Fly out if you can't win and come back later. Your mindset, people, should be patience, patience, and patience. Combine that with common sense and logical thinking, the right decisions and situational awareness, and you will become a force to reckon with. You will become a power on the battlefield, and you will be somebody who is hard to beat because you position it well. Not because you're the best pilot. Hey man, I'm not the most fantastic pilot out there. I'm not the best aim in the world. No, I'm good at everything, especially when I fly a little bit more, but I'm not the best. But what I am best at, I would say, I'm one of the best, is in positioning, decision making, situational awareness, and patience. And that is half of your game. This goes into all aspects of the game, but it definitely goes into side climbing. Side climbing is your setup. It gives you the position you need to dominate, and it will make it easier. It will give you the room to make mistakes. It will make you a better pilot. Do this right, guys, please. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I want to thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye. If you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button, become part of this community. If you are already a subscriber, don't forget to like the video, do leave me a comment, and if you really feel like helping out today, make sure to share the video with your friends and let them know about the channel.